Hey guys, it's me, Chris again. I'm back with another book review. This is my second all-time favorite wrestling autobiography and book that I was so excited about. At the time, I worked at Books A Million, and so sometimes we were afforded a preview copy of certain books so that we could review them to see if we wanted to go ahead and purchase them. Well, I was able to be the lucky person that God smiled upon, the reading gods, and I was able to get a preview copy of this. And then, of course, later on, I went ahead and purchased the final product. But of autobiographies, just like the Mick Foley one, this one, regardless, it transcends the sport of professional wrestling. It is by far one of the best autobiographical reads ever. I'm telling you, and this is Chris Jericho's debut autobiography, A Lion's Tale Around the World in Spandex. Right here. A Lion's Tale Around the World in Spandex by Lionheart Chris Jericho. And I'm going to tell you, this thing was simply amazing. Once again, I was taken aback. The intelligence of Chris Jericho is on full display here. He's articulate. Once again, the tales that I loved was all in this book. You get to learn about all the different styles of professional wrestling because he goes everywhere. It's just amazing. Not only that, it keeps you in stitches. I was laughing hysterically at this book, as well as some of the parts, especially regarding, when it got into the Eddie Guerrero and different things that was really heartbreaking because of knowing later on Eddie Guerrero would be passing away and several things that would happen. But anyways, like I said, it starts off with his childhood and him loving the classic 80s metal hair bands and all these things, and then of course his father growing up. His father was played for the was Chris Irving that played for the New York hockey team. Sorry about that. I don't watch hockey that much, obviously, but I mean it was amazing. And watching, he would watch Hockey Night, obviously, to watch his father, and then he'd watch Canadian wrestling would come on later, and eventually he would see all these great things in Stampede Wrestling, and he would fall in love with it. Obviously, he had all these different interests, but wrestling was among them. And so Chris Jericho does a fantastic job of taking you all the way up to where he wanted to be a wrestler, and he was also a bouncer with Lance Storm and a few bars up there when he went to Calgary. But he went to the legendary Hart Family Dungeon up there in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, for some awesome training, where you meet Stu Hart and all the Hart brothers, and he takes you through all of those awesome stories, and then, trying to make it in professional wrestling and break into the business. And then of course you go down to where he goes into Mexico, which is wow, that's an eye-opening experience. You definitely got to read that part. So you learn the Canadian style of wrestling, obviously, and then all of a sudden you're introduced to the Mexican style, Lucha Libre, and of course he has to live and work in Mexico, so he has to not only speak Spanish, but he has to learn the Lucha Libre style, which is a lot lighter style because you have to do a lot of backflips, and it's more spot oriented than it is hard wrestling. And so all the masks and the great tradition of Mexican wrestling, and some of the characters that are obviously going on behind the scenes with some of the egotistical promoters and all that stuff. It's all in the book, and the story behind the in Mexico about the masks, representing the Aztec and the Mayan history of their. Each mask in Mexico represents their family crest or their heritage. Like Fuerza Guerrera and Juventud Guerrera have the same symbol on their mask and the same shape of the mask. Sometimes the mask itself is a little bit different, but the symbol's the same. And so when a Mexican luchador, is what they're called, that wrestles Lucha Libre, puts their mask on the line, it's a big deal. And then the hair versus hair matches, hair versus mask matches, all that great stuff. And then, of course, meeting the Latin lovers down there, Eddie Guerrero and his late tag team partner. And there's just sadness and all the stuff that goes down there. And then all of a sudden, getting to go over to Germany and learning the European style of wrestling, catch wrestling, and having several tours over there, which was a very eye-opening experience, because you don't hear a lot about European style wrestling, but it's all in Chris Jericho's book. And then the next thing, going over to Japan, and in Japan, when you go over to a dojo, Japanese wrestling is called Puroresu, and if you go over there to join a dojo, Japanese wrestling is very, very hard and realistic style wrestling. They consider it very, very serious business over there. And so the training that goes in, once again, you've got a guy that graduated from the Hart Dungeon. Now he's going to also a Japanese dojo, which is, in the sport of professional wrestling, if you've made it through the Hart Dungeon, or number two, if you've made it through a dojo in Japan, you are considered serious business. And so Chris Jericho is one of the very few that's been through both. So he goes over there, and you're pretty well treated like a bunch of crap. But the thing about it is once you make it through a dojo over there, and then you go to the States and make a name for yourself, when you come back to Japan, you're treated as Ajin, which means you're basically treated as royalty. But anyways, Chris Jericho takes you expertly through all the stuff that goes over there in Japan, the Yakuza, and all the stuff that's behind Japanese Puroresu wrestling, and what it is to be in a Japanese dojo. It's amazing. It's a fascinating breed. And some of his classic matches over there with Jushin Thunder Liger, and then eventually getting that big break in Extreme Championship Wrestling. And coming over here and making it with Paul Heyman over there in Philadelphia, and getting witnessed by Eric Bischoff at WCW, and Bischoff was raiding talents at the time because, as you know, the Monday Night Wars were going on, and eventually being brought to World Championship Wrestling. And so then we get a big behind-the-scenes access to what was going on, the rise and fall of WCW, Eric Bischoff, and how the Cruiserweights were treated, and how, the whole thing happened in WCW, the Cruiserweight Division, which revolutionized professional wrestling at the time, and then ultimately getting that call to go up north to the WWF in the Attitude Era. And this book ends with Chris Jericho making that legendary appearance against The Rock on Monday Night Raw, with when the Y2J counter counted down, and Raw as Jericho began. This takes you step by step all the way through the process. And there's 2 sequels to this book, but this one takes you to the point where Jericho finally lived out his dream and debuted for the World Wrestling Federation, currently the WWE. It's a great book. It's a great read. It takes you step by step through the way all styles of professional wrestling are represented in this Chris Jericho's first book. Do not run to get this. A Lion's Tale. Around the World in Spandex. It's one of the, and it also, like I said, it will keep you in stitches, and it's good to, it has a lot of rock and roll classic 80s hair bands in it too. So guys, I highly recommend it. Run out and get this sucker now. From my bookshelf to